it returns data in JSON format, same like jQuery Ajax, it returns in. It is good in error handling. That means actually it have more features than jQuery in error handling. So it is more secured. It is more secured. So secured. It is more secured. So actually secured is nothing but we have coarse issues. I told you. Actually security, later I will tell you some more points. Generally security means it can prevent lot of issues. Suppose I will simply tell you one point. You learned some web design, developing websites. Can you name some technical issues that we face through web applications? What are the regular technical issues that we face in any web application? Do you know any technical issues related to web applications that developers need to know while developing web applications? For example, you are developing a website. What are the threats for your website? How developer need to take precautions for handling those threats? Generally, in experience interviews, they ask this. They say that how you will secure React application. Many people think that security in React means user ID, password, register, login. They are not security. Security for application. Can anybody tell that? What is the security in application? Anybody? Yeah. That's what I said. User ID, password, that is authentication. That is not security. That is not security. Actually, security means web applications will face a lot of issues. Some of the issues we call as XSS. XSS is cross-site scripting attacks. Cross-site scripting attacks. This is very common in web development. Any software engineer who is related to web designing, he knows this. What is cross-site scripting attack? He need to prevent them. Right? If you are not aware, I will let you know. I will tell you about that. Security, we will discuss at the end. I will tell you how security issues will be there, how to address them. Cross-site scripting attacks. We have options like, so we have like CORS, which already I told you. Cross-origin resource sharing. Cross-origin resource sharing is nothing but you can prevent your application in such a way that user cannot post any data into your application. User can read, but he cannot post. User can post, but he cannot delete or update. Like that, we can control which request he can handle by using CORS. CORS is used for restricting the requests. That means you can design APIs and you can restrict the request. Request means whether he can access or not, whether he can post or not, whether he can update or not. We can control that. So if situation is matching, we can allow him to post. If situation is not matching, we can prevent. Not only that, actually, we have so many third parties, so many attacks, like you had learned about injection attacks. We have scripting attacks. We have injection attacks. These are very common in web development. We have another one, cross-page posting. Cross-page posting is also an important one. This is also related to security, right? So, lot of such things are there. I will explain. Those we will learn about. Security at the end. We will discuss them. So, a web application needs security from a lot of things. That means cross-page posting. So we have third-party posting, third-party posting. Third-party postings, these are all we need to prevent very much. Why? Because actually you observe these days website says that you cannot use our website freely, you have to register. And if you are not interested in registering in our website, then you can log in with your Google account, or you can log in with your Facebook account. That means Google and Facebook are allowing some another website to access their data and use for login. Then imagine how much secured Google and Facebook should be. Because if any another website is trying to post data into your application, it is very dangerous. That leads to a lot of security issues. But they are allowing means they have to take a lot of precautions. This all comes under securities. So one of the major advantages why people go with different third parties. Why people go with different third parties? Because these third parties have a solution for those issues. Some are having, some are not having. At your application level, which one is priority and which third party is providing it? Based on that, we will use. We don't blindly use every third party just because we learnt it. We use the third parties depending on requirement of our application. What is advantage of Axios is it can prevent CORS. So it can prevent CORS attacks, CORS attacks. It can prevent so XSS attacks. That means cross-site scripting attacks, right? So it can prevent cross-page posting. All these things are secure, which are not possible with jQuery AJAX. And not only that, it can handle multiple requests simultaneously at the same time. That is another point. Generally, jQuery, AJAX, and Fetch, they can handle only one request at a time. But Axios can handle simultaneously multiple requests. It can post to one, it can get from another. Both it can handle simultaneously in two different memory allocations. That makes it is asynchronous. Async means without blocking. You know that async means without blocking. So current request. It can process another request. That is advantage. So it is faster when compared to, because asynchronous is always fast. Asynchronous is always faster when compared to other. These are all features. Already I explained clearly the differences between Fetch and jQuery. The differences between jQuery and Axios. Already we discussed all these points in the last session about jQuery and this Fetch. Now these are all the features. And to handle more features, more third parties. One of the problem with all these are, these all third parties, majority you are using, they are licensed under MIT license. MIT is a license. MIT licensed means, actually MIT licensed are with little bit risky. Why? Because MIT license means they are not responsible for what they are providing. That means if it is not working properly or it is failed in various situations, you can't complain on that. You just ignore it, use something better than that. You can't complain that this is not working. So if it is not working, they are not responsible. That is what one of the major issue with MIT license. When you are using a third party, you will see a lot of third parties are licensed under MIT. That means using them is at your own risk. If they work, okay. If they don't work, no, you can use any another which works better. That is only the point. That's the reason companies, majority high level, they don't take chance. They use the paid services. like I showed you Telerik, Dev Express. These are all third parties. We pay money and we use their libraries. We don't use free libraries because at high level, they are not enough. These free libraries are not enough. And we need a good resolving of issues whenever issues comes. That is one reason. But if you know one third party, you can handle other third parties. How to use Axios? Simple. Generally, I already told you, right? If you are learning about any third party, you have to search for the third party in which location? npmjs.org. So npmjs.com it is. You can visit this site. Here you can find all the third parties. You can search for any third party and you can know about it because they will give you help documentations and all. You learn about it and implement. Remember, even I given you a notes about this. After a few days, it may change. They may change the complete functionality. Recently, lot of libraries changed. Lot of JavaScript libraries changed from callbacks to promises. Majority, 90% of JavaScript libraries recently, they changed from callback functions to promises. Earlier, they used to use lot of callbacks, lot of libraries. They recently, from past 5-6 months, so 3-4 months, they changed it to promises. They changed complete library from function to promise. That means actually, earlier what we have to do, earlier we need to write some method. And this method uses a callback function. This is a callback function. Actually, this callback function on success, it will execute that callback function. Okay. After that, we write another function. What is this function? This is the function. This is another callback function. We write on what? Failure. On failure, we write another callback function. This is how we write methods. Almost all JavaScript libraries were like this. From past 2-3 months only, they changed completely from this library to promises library. Lot of JavaScript libraries, they have updated because you will see third parties libraries people using, they are updated 5 years back, 6 years back, 4 years back, 11 years back. They designed 11 years back and released it. And till now you are using them. Now some people will latest update. 5 years back, they were be using ES4 JavaScript. Now when they update to new, then what happens? They will change the library to promises because promises are new concepts which will make asynchronous and they will be better in error handling. Now what they have changed, several libraries, they changed it like this. That means you have a method. After that method, you will have a then. After that, you will have a catch. Then you will have a finally. These are what they are doing. Now, recently, majority of library, that is the reason even you visit several websites online while learning React and others, you will face this problem now. Because so many React related libraries and tutorials already which are there on internet and very popular on internet, they were using general callbacks. But now it is changed to promises. Then that old code you try to implement in this new version of React, it will fail. It will fail. That is the reason as a developer, every regular intervals, you need to check these libraries. You need to see, are they changing or not? You subscribe to the libraries which you have used so that you will get notification about any changes made in the library. You can't follow these notes after 1 month or 2 months, same. They will change. They can change. That's the reason you need to explore by yourself and know about the changes. And you can do that from this location, npmjs.com. So visit that website. And after that, you search for Axios. And when you search for Axios, you can see this is Axios. And see, it is a promise based. It is a promise based. And 1 month ago, some updates made. That means if you see Axios 4 months back, it is a little different. Now 1 month back, it is changed. That means for previous batch, what we told about Axios is not same now. Is not same now. Right? That means if I explore this, some new things I will see here. That is until or unless it is not updated. It is not updated. right? This is always risk for you because you are a software developer, lifelong you are a learner, right? Every day you need to keep update with your technology. So that is very important. So keep in touch with these libraries regularly because they will not be same, changing, very frequently changing, right? So let's see, you see this is Axios, and you can observe here they will give you all the information how to use, and see the license is MIT licensed means one of the key thing you should know as a developer is any MIT licensed are not responsible for any issues in that library. They are just providing you, use it until it is good for you. Anywhere it is failed, leave it, use something else. Don't claim on that. Nobody will listen to that. So you can post a query in that community asking for help. If they responded, you can get that result. If they not responded, then you change your library to something else. This risk companies can't take. That's the reason they use purchased third parties, right? So initially, you see, this is showing a lot of process. And you can see here, these are the new things which they added. These are the new features they added. And others may be same. Other features may be same. These are the new things they added because they updated 1 month back. And everything is not changed. Only few are changed. Now, in that case, you can freely use as you have learned earlier. These new things, you go through them and you update yourself. Don't try the same old syntaxes. They don't work, right? So that you need to know. Actually, they changed automatic serialization and they changed progress capturing and rate limiting. That is nothing but in APIs, automatic serialization, serializing, deserializing. This is nothing but I told you in the last session, COM marshalling. COM to marshal means object to binary, binary to object. That is what actually serializing and deserializing, serialization and deserialization. That is what automatic serialization they given. That means you don't need to manually do any translating. It will automatically do it. And they given progress capturing. Progress capturing means APIs always need this because if it is taking some time for getting you the data, then it can show the status, how much time it is taking to fetch the data, so that you can show screen on screen like loading. You can show on screen like please wait, because it is taking some time to get a response from that. Such designs we will create. That means if it is taking time, how to put progress, I will show you. So rate limiting. Rate limiting is another thing which they changed. Means rate limiting means some APIs have rate limit. Last session I showed you NASA API. They have rate limit 100%. Rate limit means every day 100 times or 50 times you can access. After that they will block. They will not allow. If you want more, then you have to register. That means you need to register in their website. They will give a key that is called API key. That API key you put in the API. Now they will give you unlimited access. Not unlimited, they will give more access. Sometimes it may be unlimited also. Because you might have observed, if I used API NASA, this is NASA API website. You can see this is NASA API website. It is showing data. If I request 100 times, 200 times on the same day, then they will block. They will say that too many times you requested this. And you see, actually, they are using a demo key. Currently, I'm using a demo key. But actually, what you can do, you can register in their website, get a authorized key, use that key in that place. Use that key in that place. Now you will have more access. That means when you are communicating with API, you can control the rate limit. How many times he can visit, how many times he can access. We can control that. Axios is giving that feature, means very good. That means we can even control the limit, how many times he can access. Per day, only 2 times. Per person, only from one IP address. Like this, we can control rate limit. These days, they are very much required. You see Netflix, you see Amazon. That means you give account to 10 people. All can view at a time. Not every time. The Netflix says that already you are watching on some other screen, please upgrade. These are all limits you can handle, right? Usually, you see these website, they will give a, you can see this is NASA API, you can see they have generate API key. If you go to generate, it will ask you to register. You register, they will send a key to your email. Whenever you want to use their API data, use that key. Where to apply that key? Remove the demo key and put the key that given to you. That's what generally people have to do. So these APIs are doing good job. That means they are having good options here. And majority these days all are using promises. Majority all are providing support for TypeScript. These are all very important these days. Okay. Now let's see how to use it. How we can make use of this. First option is simple. I will go to project. In that I have to install. Let's open terminal. Let's install Axios. How to install Axios? npm install Axios and save. That's it. We are downloading and installing this Axios library. After installing the Axios, then we have to import this Axios library. And remember which class to import, from where to import, everything you will get from the help documentation. You will get from the help documentation. So you see now I have to import. I have to import. What to import? I have to import what? Axios from Axios. I have to import this Axios from the Axios library. And already I told you so many times in the module thing I explained you. You know, in JavaScript modules, when we don't use a curly brace and when to use a curly brace, you know this, na? I hope you learned in JavaScript. In JavaScript modules, when to use a curly brace. That means people who don't know JavaScript, they are confused. Why I am using a curly brace for these? Why I am not using any curly brace for these? That is nothing but people who know proper JavaScript module system. They know that any class which is marked as export class, if it is marked as export, just export, then we have to import using a curly brace class name. From the library we have to use, from the library. But if any class is marked as export default class and class name, those default classes we have to import without curly brace. We have to define name from library. That means we use curly brace block for the classes which are not default. And classes which are default, for them, we should not use curly brace. And every library can have, every module can have one default class only one default, and all others are not default. In that case, you don't need a curly brace. You should not use a curly brace. You should just use this, right? Now, how Axios can work? How Axios can work? For example, let's see here. Now, yesterday I showed you two things. Load categories using fetch, using Ajax. Let's comment this also. This is jQuery. Let's comment this also. I will comment these lines. Okay. That means now categories are empty. The categories are not loaded and I am commenting them. And let's see here, I will refresh and the category is empty. There are no categories. Now we want to access by using Axios. Then how do we access by using Axios? Just we have to use here Axios. Axios dot, you have a method like get. Axios provides all methods like get, like post, like put, like delete, all methods it will provide. So currently we use which method? Get. Get from which URL? URL is http://fakestoreapi.com/what products/what categories. And as you saw in their library, they are using promises. If anybody is using promises, then it will not have a callback function. Earlier, we used to have like that. Earlier, in lot of old libraries, you will see callbacks. But now, if they say that we are using promises, then it will be dot then. We have to use then. This then is executed when the success fulfilled. Usually, promises will have fulfilled and rejected. Fulfilled means then. Rejected means catch. On fulfilled, what we have to do? On fulfilled, we will create a callback function. This will get the response. It will get the response. and we will print this response. Let's print the response. Console.log. We will print the response because without knowing what response is coming, you can't use the response because every API have a different response. You saw fetch is returning response in binary. We have to convert into JSON. You saw the response coming on success of jQuery as Ajax is directly JSON. Right now, let's see what is the response of this one. Let's go to the console. Let's open console because in the console I added that response. Let's go to the console here, and you see in the console it is an object, and response object is having configuration, it is having data, it is having headers, it is having request, it is having status text and status numbers. That means now response in Axios is having a lot of details. In those details, we have our data. You see data. This data is what? Array. Array of all your products. So that means now actually what is response headers? Response headers are used to know what type of content is coming. Is it JSON coming? Is it XML coming? We can understand as a developer. Before using the data, we can know about the data by using other response details. Like if you get response header, by seeing the header itself, you can understand JSON is coming or XML is coming or any another format is coming. Because jQuery, Ajax and Ajax methods are not only for JSON and XML. Even you can fetch data from a HTML file. You can load any text document. You can load any PDF document because Ajax is not only for jQuery, JSON and XML. Any type of file you can access. You can access any type of file. Response from any type of file can be there. So this is generally done, right? That means now response is collecting lot of details. So what is the response details it is having? So syntactically, how you define? Axios, first you have to install. You have to npm install what? Axios and save. After that, we have to import Axios. From where? Axios. After that, you need to use here Axios.get. And Axios.get, it uses the URL, then it uses a then uses a callback function. This callback function on what? Success. It will use catch. This catch will use a callback function. This callback function is what? On failure. This is how we use promises. And currently we are learning only get method. Later I will show you how to use post, put, delete like methods. That means how we submit data to API, how we can edit data through API, how we can delete data through API. We will learn in the next levels later. Why? Because for that we need to create our own APIs. But creating APIs our own is not React concept. You need little bit knowledge on database, server-side technologies. Then you can create your own APIs. I will show you that. On that, we will implement other methods like post, put, delete, how to handle. That means every React developer should perfectly know all CRUD operations. CRUD means create, read, update, and delete. These 4 operations you need to perfectly handle. That is what generally we expect from a React developer. Currently, we are learning only one. What is it? Get. We are learning only one. Later, we will see post and all this, right? Now, actually, there is another method actually here. Axios get have a technique. It can use an array of methods. It can use array. Actually, Axios can use various ways. I will show you different technique actual. You see in this, where is the basic method? You see Axios. Axios is using array. You can see this is what? Axios is using a get, a callback function, catch, another one, final. Right? You know that finally is used for executing every time. Multiple requests I will show you. Actually, Axios can handle multiple requests also. Anywhere control F, yeah. Multiple requests. You can see multiple requests, how we can handle multi-part. Only multi-part is there. Somewhere you can say Axios array is there? No. A lot of documentation is there. Actually, you search in the documentation, you will find multiple requests also. That means it allows you to handle more than one request simultaneously. Somewhere it is there. This is data. Okay, let me see here itself. We are using what? Axios. And here in the Axios, we can put a promise. Yeah, you can put like this. This is one. Here we have to define method. Method is suppose A, right? We have to define URL. URL is something. Now, actually, this syntax is an array of objects. Now, what happens? I'm just using another object. Here we can use another method. This is B. That means what? At 0 index, it is communicating with this. At 1 index, it is communicating with another. That means it can be configured with multiple requests. It can be configured with multiple requests. Simultaneously, 2 requests can execute with one method, which is not possible everywhere. These are some advantages and features. People who need them, they can implement them, right? Initially, this is okay. Now on this, what we have to do, just we have to set categories. Into set categories, we have to load. What we have to load? Response, not response. In response, there is data. Am I right? Because response is getting an object which contains headers, status codes, and all. Here we need to get response data. Now you can see the categories are ready. You can see the categories are ready. This time we are fetching by using what? Axios. We are using Axios. Now same you can implement everywhere. What you have to do? Suppose into that response data, we are using response.data into that. So we are using unshift and we are adding all into that. That means before it is adding the response here, it has to get that and display that data here. And here you can see some issue here. And that means it may not directly support the data. What is the error here? It is okay. Yep. Now you can see it is accessing that and displaying that. Just what you have to do, you need to just implement by using Axios. If there is any problem you want to track, then you have to use what? Catch. We have to use catch. Catch, you can get the error, what error it is, and you can report the error. So console.log, we can report the error. And error can contain a lot of details. Status text. You just put error, all details will come about the error. What is the problem in that? I think you know we can also use finally. I hope you know. Finally is used for defining actions to perform. This is not compulsory. It defines action to perform when success or when failure. In both situations, finally will work. Suppose generally what we do here, we write like memory cleanup. Memory cleanup. We will write like deleting of the connections, disconnecting them. That means successful, after successful, disconnect. Failure, after failure, disconnect. Such interactions you can define by using finally. You know, exception handling in JavaScript have 3 options: try, catch, finally, and throw, right? So you can define this. So that is required only when you want certain actions every time. So this is one example of how you can implement through Axios. And now you can use it everywhere. That means everywhere, change the fetch and change the jQuery and put Axios. You can use only specific or you can use all, right? I will just give here Fakestore, same example, Fakestore.component dot what? JSX. In JSX, let me copy this new one. Just I made the change in that Axios, right? This is the example. How do you handle communication with the APIs? This is complex data. How you are dealing with the complex data. When you are dealing with the complex data, so you need to know what are the techniques and what are the various methods of communication with APIs. Now here, one important basic question in interviews the asked is, so which JavaScript object is used by browser to handle Ajax calls. Because You are using jQuery Ajax. You are using fetch. You are using Axios. Can browser understand these as Ajax? No. Browser cannot understand your Axios. It cannot understand jQuery Ajax. It cannot even understand fetch. It cannot understand. So what is the object primarily used by browser to handle Ajax calls? Tell me the answer for that. Which JavaScript object is used by browser to handle Ajax calls? Currently, you are handling Ajax calls through Axios, through jQuery Ajax, and through fetch. But browser don't know this. Browser will translate these into its native object. And what is that native object for Ajax? Any idea? Browser uses which object for handling Ajax calls? No. It uses an object called XML HTTP request. This is the object understandable to browser. Browser can handle Ajax only through an object called XML HTTP request. You may be using different types of objects, so for your convenience, but browser uses internally this one. Your fetch, your Axios, your jQuery Ajax is converted into XML HTTP request object. Finally, browser handles Ajax calls using this object only. Right? So that means you see here, for example, handle here, this is categories. Yeah. Here, let me put here console.log. Console.log. Let's log the response. Let's log the response. And when you log the response, let's see here. In the console, in the developer tools, let's go to the console and see here. When we look at the console, in the console response object, you can see the request is managed by XML HTTP request object. Every Ajax request is managed by this object only. Whatever in the backend you may be using, browser knows only one object for Ajax, and that is this XML HTTP. Actually, in JavaScript, you can directly use this object. You can directly create an object of XML HTTP request and you can create Ajax calls instead of using fetch, instead of using Axios or jQuery Ajax. You can directly use that. In JavaScript, generally, we do that. Suppose this is a JavaScript page we are having here. You see here in the script, we can create an object. We can create an object which uses XML HTTP. It uses XML HTTP request object. This XML HTTP request object you can access. You see it have headers, loading. You have option ready state. You see it is having response text, response type, and ready state. Ready state will use some functionalities. That means if Ajax request is ready, from where to fetch the data, everything you manage by using this. But this is a lengthy process of creating Ajax request. That is the reason developers very rarely know about this until or unless they know the architecture behind Ajax. Right? That is the reason you should know as a developer that this is the JavaScript object that directly uses Ajax. That means browser uses Ajax by using which object? XML HTTP request object. That is what? That means finally Ajax is handled through this object only. Through this object. I hope you are clear. Right? This is one example you need to try with all the data binding concept. All right. So now in React, you learned one topic and that topic is component. And in component, you learned about data binding. In data binding, two things. One-way binding, another one, two-way binding. So we learned how to handle communication, connecting with the APIs. For that, we used fetch. For that, we used jQuery Ajax. And for that, we used Axios. These are the three basic things. So you learned data binding. Actually, in components, we have another concept that is we generally call style and class binding. Style binding, class binding is also a part. Because when you are presenting any content in the UI, there will be two object models. One is DOM, another one CSS/OM. CSS/OM is CSS object model. Document object model, CSS object model. Two models will be working here. So that means generally, in the beginning, I explained you browser architecture. So when we discussed the browser architecture, let's see that. I explained you how the browser works and what is DOM, what is virtual DOM. I explained this architecture. Browser architecture we already learned. And I told you about parsing. Actually, this is how this critical rendering path works. So what we are doing in React, this is DOM. I told you about shadow DOM. I told you about virtual DOM, how it is going to handle. Both process we discussed here, virtual DOM and shadow DOM I explained. But you should know that actually we have HTML DOM, which is presenting the elements. Simultaneously, there will be CSS DOM, which will be making your elements effective. That means to make the elements effective, we need a CSS DOM. And very important, these styles also can be dynamically applied to our content. We need styles also to change dynamically because UI should change dynamically according to the situation and requirement. So what is style binding and why it is important to discuss? Because it will not work in the same way how you think. For example, I will ask you a simple point here. The point is nothing but I am asking you a simple option like, suppose there is this select category. I want this select category that it is a label actually. Let's go here. There is a label called a select category. In the UI, you see, there is a label select category. I want to apply some color for this using inline style. I want to bind some style inline. Currently, we are applying class. I want some inline style. Inline style means I want bold, I want italic, I want some styles. Then generally in HTML, how do you write inline styles? Generally in HTML, how do you write inline style? Usually we write label. For that we use a style. And here we will write like font size, right? Colon. What is the font size? 20 pixel, semicolon. We have to write like, so suppose font style is italics like this. Like this we write. I hope you know this. This is how generally we write the styles for any element inline. React will not allow like this. React have a different technique because it is not actual DOM. If it is not actual DOM, how you can write simply the styles inline? This is the syntax for actual DOM. Virtual DOM will not accept this one. Virtual DOM cannot bind your styles to any UI element like this. Then how do you bind for virtual DOM? That means now React developer should know even how he need to write an inline style for any element, right? That means, for example, here we need to define some style. Then how do we define style? Because the point here is React will not allow to bind inline styles exactly as you define in DOM. Exactly as you define in DOM. Why? Because React uses virtual DOM and the actual DOM syntax is not allowed. Then how do we write the styles inline in React? For that, what you have to do is, then we have to write like this. You need to define any element, you have to write style, and you need to use a binding expression. In this binding expression, the set of styles are written in a block. In binding expression, block. Set of styles are written in a block. In this block, you have to define style attribute. You have to define style attribute in camel case only. Style attribute in camel case only. Generally, style attributes are with hyphen separated. Font hyphen color, right? Means font hyphen size, background hyphen color, text hyphen align. It's not supported. You have to write in camel case only. And very important, this style requires an attribute. Attribute you have to define like this: value. Attribute contains value. What about another attribute? What about another attribute? Another attribute is not semicolon, it is comma, because it is a JSON. Styles are defined in a JSON. That means you have to write another style attribute and colon, and you have to write. This is the basic technique of style binding in React. So inline styles you want to write in React, they will not directly work same as you written in general HTML, because that is usually normal DOM. That is normal DOM. That means technically now I will show you. Let's go here, design. Suppose I will put something here. Any element we will put here. Suppose I am doing, let's say temporarily after heading, I will put a simple one, some welcome. Just like I am writing welcome heading. You see there is some welcome. I want to apply some styles for that. Then what we do here, we are writing a style is equal to, I am writing normal DOM style. I am writing here. Normal DOM style. I said color is equal to red. And I am writing some font family. Family is equal to font family, suppose Arial. Like this I am writing. So font style is what? Italics. Like this we are adding the effects. This is how generally we write in HTML, right? How you bind. And it is not allowed. It is not allowed. You can't write like this. You can't write like this. That is not allowed. Then what is the right way of doing this? The right way of doing this, you need to put a binding expression for that. In that binding expression, you need to write a block. In that block, you need to define style is color. Color is what color? Red. After that, comma. We have to write font family. Font family is what? Some cursive. That is the font family. I am using like font style. Font style. Font style is what? Font style is italic. Like this. And you can see now the features will apply for that. You cannot directly write the styles for any of your virtual DOM elements, just like how you written in HTML. And very important, this is the process. That means this is how you need to write. This is how you need to write. If you want to write any inline style, you need to define in this way. That is major. And what is the concept of style binding? Why it is called style binding? You bind inline styles. Not only binding inline styles, what is the advantage of this is it allows, style binding allows to change the element appearance dynamically. You can change the element appearance dynamically. For example, we have a text box, and the text box is to be filled with some value. If text box is not filled with value, we want to turn it to red color. How? How you will write this kind of validation? Because generally in forms, this is very common. You are designing a form, some invalid is entered, turn to red color, valid is entered, turn to green color. How you do this in general HTML, JavaScript? The same will not happen here. We need to use style binding techniques. We need to apply the style binding techniques. So I will show you here. That means, for example, what we need to do here, let's see. Let's create a component separately first here. Okay. I will add a simple component to show you as an example. In the components, I am adding style binding. Okay. In that, I will add a new file, style binding dot component, style binding dot JSX. That's it. Now let's write a function. So export function style binding. That's the function, and it will return a simple container. Okay. So class name is container fluid. Okay. And here I am defining some data list, data term, suppose username. And here we have a data definition. So input type is text. And I want put some validation. I want to put some effects into this. That means now what we want here is let's keep this style binding in the startup. That means I'm using style binding in the startup here. Okay. Now this is the design of that page we have. And in this username must be entered. Without entering username, if they come out, then it should show some red color. Later we will see validations and all. That means we want to apply some effects. That means now what we do here, suppose I'm writing an event. So here I'm writing an event. What is that event? On blur. On blur means when it loses the focus. I will say verify. So we will say verify name. We will write a function here. Function. What is it? Verify name. Now what it should do is, it should get the value entered inside that E. E will be using event arguments, right? Now I need to verify whether the name entered or not. Based on that, I want to apply some effects. That means now you see here, I'm importing import. So I'm importing state. I'm importing use state from React. Let's create one state function here, constant. This is username, and we have what? Set username, and it is use state. It is an empty string. We are just giving an empty string here. Now what we will do is, we will use here set username e dot what? Target dot value. Whatever value entered in the text box, we are collecting that value here. Now we are applying here, you see constant. I am writing a style object. This style object, set style object. We have set style object. And this is use state. It is what type? Object type. In this object, you want certain features to apply. What are those features? That object should contain. So suppose border. That object should contain border. Border, I will give string type actually. Later we can apply colors. We will apply the colors and effect. That is empty, right? You need another one. Another one is like, suppose I said box shadow, right? That means I am giving box shadow like this. And what is the value? Empty. These are the values of style object, and I want to apply them to this text box. That means text box is using style, which is coming from a style object. Am I right? It is coming from style object. This is dynamic binding. You are binding dynamically for that. Now what will happen here? We will write a condition. What is it? If username is equal to empty, that means there is no value entered in username. Then what should happen? If username is empty, set style object. Into that style object, you can send the value. You can see it is an object. Object contains two properties. What are those properties? Border. Border, how much? I will give 2 pixel, solid, red color. These are the value. Another one, we have box shadow. Box shadow will be how much? 2 pixel, 2 pixel, 2 pixel, some red color, like this. That is how we are defining. That means now what happens usually? You click inside this text box. Without entering anything, click outside. It will apply that effect. You are dynamically applying styles. This is regular. Every form you will see this. Right? That means if there is a value entered, it should change again. That means what we will do here. Else, we will set the same style object. This will be into which color? Green. And here it will be which color? Green. That means we are changing that into green. That means initially this is there. I click inside without typing, click outside. This is empty. I entered some details. After that, click outside. Now it should change to green. So here, why it is not changing to green? Because I haven't typed it. I selected. That is not recognized as change. Because it showed me tip. In the tip, what happens? Accidentally, sometimes already in the list, some option is there, you will select. Then it will not identify as change event. That means it will not identify that you made some change. Because that value you selected is not identified as typed. That is the reason it shows that. It will not be a problem because you will generally clean the history and you don't have any tips. Then you manually type, then it will be fine. Now I remove this and I click outside, then it should change into red color. That is how we can manage, right? Usually, how we can apply the styles dynamically to any element. That is done by using which technique? Style binding. Style binding. This is very, very important in later stage when you are learning validations and all, because we need to change the format. But style binding is not satisfied every time, because how many styles you will apply like this? Because styles means a set of attributes. So you have to write the attributes and apply. Instead of that, you can try class binding. If there are many effects to apply, instead of that, you can just put class binding. Class binding means what? All styles you can store under reference of one class and apply that class. That means you can change the classes also dynamically. Currently, we are applying classes already by using class name. We are applying. But the point is how you can change the classes dynamically. That means a class can change dynamically. CSS class can change dynamically, so that element appearance can change dynamically. Instead of styles, you can also change classes. For that, we will see one good example, how the classes are binded, class binding works, right? That we'll see tomorrow, right? In tomorrow's session, we will see some examples on working with class binding and style. Style binding is this one. We will see some example, how do we work on class binding also, so that you can get clarity on that, right? Tomorrow we'll see that. Okay.